Welcome back to Web API tutorials. I am Venkat. This is part 31, Log4Net in Web API. In this video, I will explain you how we can log the messages using Log4Net with the three different providers. First one is the debug provider, second one is the console provider, and third one is the file provider. Using Log4Net, I will explain you all these three providers, meaning three appenders. So we are discussing third-party logging providers in Web API .NET Core version 7. In the previous video, we have already discussed Serilog. And in this video, we will discuss about Log4Net. If you open this particular link, you can see the official documentation regarding Log4Net. And if you open the GitHub repository, you can see the ASP.NET Core related library and also the integration documentation, how we can use Log4Net in our ASP.NET Core. The first step here is we need to install this particular library. After installing that particular library, from .NET 6 onwards, we need to add this particular line to our program.cs file. Once we added this particular line, we need to add a configuration file and we need to put this content inside that. I'll explain all these. Let us install the library first. Let me open the Solution Explorer and open the Nugget Package Manager. Go to Browse, paste the library name, and this is the library. Install. Okay, this particular library got installed. If you open the Installed tab, we can see that it got installed. Let me close this one. And let us comment the Serilog logging mechanism. In the previous video, we have discussed this Serilog. I'm just commenting out, and this one also. I have commented all Serilog related code. Let me add a region, Serilog settings. I'm minimizing it. And let us go back to the documentation. After installing this package, if you scroll down here, there are some examples, but these are for older versions. If you scroll down a little bit, here we can see the configuration from .NET 6 and later. So we need to follow this particular step. We need to add this particular line, builder.Logging.AddLog4Net. Here I am registering that. That's the Log4Net registration I have added. After adding that particular line in our program.cs, we need to create a configuration file with the log4net.config name. So we need to create a file with this name. Okay, I'm copying it and open the Solution Explorer. Right click on your project, click on Add New Item, scroll down, select this web configuration file, select this web configuration file template and give the name like this, log4net.config, and click on Add. So now I have added the log4net.configuration file, and let me copy this configuration. We can add this configuration file directly. I have copied it and Control A, remove, Control V. I have added the configuration. If you look at this one, There are mainly two elements in this. Appender is the one element, root is the another element inside the Log4Net. If you notice, there is a Log4Net tag and there is a appender and there is a root. Appender is nothing but the provider. In Log4Net, we will call it as a appender. So in the previous videos, we have discussed like there are debug providers, console providers, and event log provider, event source provider, file provider, like that. So we have different providers. But coming to the Log4Net, we will call them as the appenders. Okay. This one is the debug appender. I will show you the sample for debug appender. We need to define like this, the appenders. And once the appender is defined with a proper name, then we need to register that particular appender here in the root. So once you have registered that particular debug appender here, then the configuration is done. And if you want to configure the log levels, in the previous videos, we have discussed the importance of log level and different levels of log levels. So here you can configure the log level for Log4Net. Okay. So here all meaning trace level, meaning it starts from 0th level. Let me explain you the log levels in Log4Net. These are the log levels available in Log4Net. In that root tag, if you set a log level as all, it will start logging from all to all higher levels. If you configure the log level as debug, it will start from debug and it will log all the higher levels. If you configure with info, it will start with info and logs all higher levels. If you configure it as a warning, it will start with warning and logs all higher levels, meaning error, fatal. And if you configure it as an error, it will start with error and logs all higher levels. If you configure it as a fatal, it will start with fatal and logs all higher levels. If you configure it as off, it will turn off the logging. Off is nothing but turning off the logging. So nothing will be logged. These are 100% similar to the inbuilt log levels, but there are few name changes. In inbuilt log levels, there is a trace, but here you can notice the trace as all. Remaining all are same. Coming to the fatal, in inbuilt log levels, we can see critical, but here it is a fatal, but the severity is same. Those are the only changes, and log levels configuration is same and logging mechanism also same. Okay, these are the log levels available in Log4Net. You can configure according to these configuration settings. So right now I have configured it as a all. So we have added one appender, meaning one provider, debug provider. So it will log to only debug provider. Before running the Log4Net logging, I want to clear the inbuilt loggers. builder.Logging.Clear all inbuilt providers. So this statement will clear all the inbuilt providers, inbuilt logging provider, so that it is making sure that we are using only Log4Net. So I have added only Log4Net and I have cleared all the previous inbuilt providers. Now I have cleared all the inbuilt providers and I have added a Log4Net. Inside that Log4Net, I have added only one provider, that is a debug provider. Here you can see it is a Log4Net.Appender.Debug appender. So it is nothing but debug provider. It will log the messages into debug window. That's it. The Log4Net configuration is completed. Okay, let us run and see. I'm running this one. Before executing this method, let me show you what is written inside that particular controller. Let me open the demo controller. So there is no change inside the controller. There is a ILogger and injecting ILogger. Here we will get the logger instance and we are creating the log messages. Okay, so nothing changed inside this file. It is same. Let me open this one, and before executing that, let me clear the debug console. So this one is the debug window and I have cleared everything. Let me put it side by side. Here I am executing it. Try it, execute. So here we can see there are messages logging. If you notice those messages, let me maximize this. Let me go to Log4Net. So here you can see the first one is the date. Here we can see the date logging. Here we are printing the date first. Let me pin this. Yes. Here we are printing the date first and the date got printed. And we are printing the current thread. Here we can see .NET thread pool.walker. So next log level, info, warning, and error log levels got printed. And the logger. So this one is the logger. From this demo controller, it is getting logged. After that, message. So this is the message we are printing. If I go to that particular controller, here we can see that particular message got printed. Okay, so these are the messages. But if you notice one thing here, in our Log4Net configuration, we have configured to log all kinds of severities, meaning all kinds of log messages. In our demo controller, we are logging everything, okay, from trace to critical. But if you notice in the debug window, we are seeing only the messages from information level, information, warning, error, and fatal. So it is not logging the trace and debug. That is because of the development configuration. For that, in our .NET Core latest versions, when we are running our application, it is running in a debug mode. So you can notice our application is running in a debug mode. So when our application is running in a debug mode, we need to change the debug configuration. For that, open your Solution Explorer, and inside the Solution Explorer, go to App Settings and expand this App Settings. Under this, you can find app settings.development.json. In that development.json, you can notice in this development configuration file, it is configured as the information. This particular one is overriding the Log4Net configuration. Okay, change this to trace. So I have configured the development configuration to log from trace. Now let me run it. Let me put it side by side. Let me clear this. I'm running this one. This time we can see it is logging from trace level. Trace, debug, info, warning, error, and fatal. Okay. So let me modify this one. Let us log it from error. I have configured the development setting to log from error level. And let me rerun this. I'm rerunning it. Let me put it side by side. Let me clear this. This time, if I execute, we can see it is logging from error. That's what we have configured. That's what we have configured inside the development app settings file. So this is how you need to configure the log levels for Log4Net. So in the development environment, this particular configuration is overriding the Log4Net configuration. So that is about the debug appender. After this debug appender, I want to show you the console appender. If you notice the console window, there is nothing logging when we run because there is no console provider or console appender. So let me add the console appender here. Let me copy the console appender. This one is a similar one, nothing changed. Just in the place of debug appender, we need to put the console appender. This name can be anything. Okay, let me add that appender to the root. Let me copy the name, and I have added the console appender to the root element. Now my Log4Net has the two different providers or appenders, debug appender and the console appender. This time we can see the messages logging into the console window. Let me rerun this. I'm executing it. Execute. We can see there are messages logged into the console window. Error and fatal. If we change the configuration from error to information, we can see the information level settings logging into the console. This time we can see the messages logging from info level. Let me execute this endpoint. We can see the messages are logging from information level. That is the console provider. That's the console provider. And let me show you the file appender. So we have seen the debug provider and console provider. This time I wanted to show you the file provider. This is the configuration for file provider. I will explain all those properties one by one. If you want to log messages into a file using Log4Net, we need to use the rolling file appender. So this will basically log the messages into log file. If you want to log the messages into your log file, you need to mention the log file name. This is my file name and I'm running it. Let me rerun. There is a folder already. Let me remove that folder. I'm removing this folder. Delete. Yes, that logs folder got deleted and I'm running it. Try it out. Execute. The logging is not working. There is no folder created. There is no logging working. If the logging is not working, we need to add one property to the configuration. So the logging is not working. The logs are not logging to the file because there is no rolling style defined. Okay, we need to define the rolling style. That rolling style is nothing but this one. We need to add this rolling style property. Okay, there are 4 different styles of rolling a file in Log4Net. Let me quickly explain those 4 rolling styles. There are 4 different rolling styles in Log4Net. First one is the once. When you configure rolling style as a once, the log file will be replaced for every execution. So whenever your application is running, the log file will be created and every log will be logged into that particular file. And once the application got restarts, then the file also restarts, meaning it will log only once. When your application is restarting, the log file also overwrites the existing log, meaning it will completely creates the new log file on top of the old one. So rolling style once is nothing but it will log once per execution. And the next style is the size. If you configure rolling style as a size, it will create a new file whenever that particular file exceeds the configured size. Roll files based only on the size of the file. Irrespective of the program execution, when you stopped or executing or restarting, it will not replace the existing log file until unless it is meeting the configured size. Once the file is reaching out to the configured size, then it will replaces the same file. So it will replace as the same file. The default size of a file in Log4Net is 10 MB. The next configuration is the date configuration. If you configure your rolling style as a date, then it will create one file for every new date. Meaning if your application starts logging today, it will create one file for today. Then whenever the date got changed, it will create a new file. For tomorrow, it will create new file. For day after tomorrow, it will create a new file. So based on the dates, if you want to create one new file for every new day, then you can choose the date rolling style. Coming to the composite. Composite is the combination of size and date. Composite can generate the files for every new day, and it will also check the size. Whenever the size is exceeding, then it will create the new file. Whenever the date got changed, then also it will create the new file. It will roll files based on both size and date of the file. These are the 4 different rolling styles in Log4Net. Let me use the first one. I'm copying the rolling style property and I'm adding it here. So this is the rolling style. I want to make it once. I have configured the rolling style as once and I'm rerunning my application. There is no logging folder created yet. Let me click on try it, execute. This time also file did not get created. What is the reason? The configuration is correct. Okay. Okay, got it. So whenever we have created a new appender, we need to add that appender to the root element. Let me copy it and let me add this rolling file. Yeah, that might be the reason. Let me run it again. Let me put it side by side. Still there is no folder created. Okay, we have added the appenders here. And inside the development, it is a information. All good. Okay. Let me open. So whenever you encountered this kind of issues, we need to look at the output folder. Click on this show all files icon and expand the bin folder, debug and .NET 7. Here we can see there is a log folder got created. So it is getting created inside the output folder. You can see there is a log file got created The file got created inside the output folder, so log.txt. So I don't want the file to be created inside the output directory. Let me configure our project path, copy full path. So right click on your project, you can click on copy full path and let me put it here, paste. Let me remove this. That's my full path. So this time it will create the folder in our main directory. Let me rerun this. This time we can see there is a folder created, logs, and there is a text file created and it is being used. That's why it cannot open. Let me open the folder in a file explorer. Let me add that to left side. If I open that file, here we can see there are something got logged. Let me close it. I'm clicking on this one and try it, execute. So let me open this again. We can see there are new messages got added. So these are the messages added from our demo controller from what is the level? Yeah, from info to higher levels. It got logged from info to higher levels because our development configuration is configured as the information. Log level is configured as the information. That's the first one. That is the first style of rolling style. If I rerun this application, in the log file, we can see there is some content. I'm not doing anything. I'm just rerunning our application. I'm just rerunning it. Whenever I rerun this, this will override the log file because our rolling style is a once. If you open this file, the log file got overridden and it started writing again. Okay, so that's the meaning of rolling style once. If I click on this again, it will log. See, we can see the messages logging from demo controller. So that's the meaning of rolling style once. Rolling style once is nothing but it will create one file for every execution. If there is a file already, it will override that particular file so that there is a chance of losing the existing logs. Okay, that's the first style of logging. Let us go to the next style. Next one is the size. Based on this size, it will create the new file. Unless it will meet that size, configured size, it will not override the file, it will not delete the file. Once the size is exceeding, then it will override. The property for that is the size. That's the second rolling style. If you are using the second rolling style, we need to add the maximum file size property. We need to use this one, maximum file size. If you are using a size rolling style, we need to use this one. I'm configuring it as a 1 KB just for demo. If you don't put this one, if you don't put this property, the default size will be 10 MB. The default size is a 10 MB. Okay, so if we don't put this also, it will work because the default size is a 10 MB. But I am keeping it as a 1 KB just to show you the demo. Let me rerun this. This is the existing file. It got replaced. So this has these many lines right now. I have closed it. Now I am clicking on execute. So this file got generated. Here you can see there is a 1 KB exceeded. So here we can see there are some lines of log. Let me close it and let me execute it again. So this time it got exceeded. See that it is overriding the existing file because it got exceeded the configured size. It is rewriting the log file. It is deleting the existing file and it is creating again whenever it is crossing this configured size. Okay, so you can configure it as a 100 MB or a 200 MB or 1000 MB. If you are working in production or some other environments, you can configure it for bigger size. But I will show you one more thing. Whenever your file size is exceeding, you might want to keep your existing file as a backup, right? So there is a facility for that. Whenever your file size is exceeding, you wanted to keep your existing file as a backup and you want to write the upcoming logs to the new file, you can do that with this property, maximum size roll backups. This property says how many backup files you want to keep. If you keep 2 backup files, it will maintain 2 backups. After that, it will start deleting the files. Let me show you this configuration. Running it. If I open this file, there are some log messages. And let me execute this one. You can see that there are backup files getting created. Whenever the file size is getting exceeded, there are backup files getting created. It will create up to 2 backups because we have configured to create only 2 backups. So let me change it to 5 backups. It will maintain 5 backup files. Then it will start deleting the files. So there are backup files already. Let me delete them. Okay, only few got deleted. Maybe the others are in use. Let me delete all the files. Let me stop it. Let me delete all the files. Yeah, let me rerun it. There is a file created. Try it out. Execute. Execute. Whenever the file size is reaching out to the limit, configured limit, it will create the new file. It will maintain maximum 5 backups. After 5 backups, it will start deleting the files. That's the use of backup property. That is about keeping the backup files. This will be handy. So that's all about the rolling style size. The next rolling style is the date. It will create a new file whenever the date got changed. Let me change this to rolling style change to date. This time it will work based on the date. I have changed it to date. Let me stop our application. Let me go to the log file. Let me delete all the logs. And let me run it. There is a file created. Let me open that file and let me show you. There are some 4 lines. Let me close it. Execute this one. Let me open this. There are more lines logged from demo controller, and close it. Let me open the date settings. These are my date settings. Right now it is a 8th January. Let me set the automatic configuration off so that I can change my date. So here I'm changing my date. I'm changing to the 9th of January. Change it. This time I'm executing it. There is a new file got generated. Let me change the date again. 10. Change it and execute. There is a new file generated. Whenever the date is getting changed, it will log to the new file. Execute. There is a new file changed. If I keep on clicking execute, if I keep on logging, then it will logs to the same file. It will logs to the same file. See that? It is logging everything to the same file. There is no size limit for the date rolling style. Okay, that is about the date rolling style. Let me reset my time. Let me turn on the automatic setting. Yeah, it is changed back to 8th January. Let me close it. That's about the date rolling style. Let me stop it. Let me delete all log files. And the next rolling style is the composite rolling style. Composite rolling style is nothing but combination of size and date. Let me change the rolling style to composite. So this time composite is nothing but it will work based on two configurations. First one is the size and next one is the date. I have cleared all the log files. Let me run it. There is a log file generated. Let me execute the controller method. Execute. Whenever the size got exceeded, it started creating new file. You can notice that there are 5 backups we have configured. Yeah, so it is maintaining maximum 5 backups. I have opened the date settings. Let me turn it off, automatic configuration. Let me change it. I'm changing it from 8th to 9th. Change it. And I have executed. We can see. So the backups got marked with the previous date and it started new file. Let me execute it for some time. There are backups creating for today, meaning 9th. There are backups created for 9th date. And whenever I change the date, meaning that when the date got changed, I am changing it to 10th. This time, all these backups will mark with the 9th date. So the backups got marked with the 9th date and it started new file. So it is creating new file. If I change the date again, I'm changing it to 11th. Change it and I'm executing it. You can see the backup files got marked with the date 10th and it started new file. Execute. So that is about the Composite. Composite will basically works based on the size and the date. Okay, let me set my time automatic. Yeah, back to 8th January. Yeah, close it. Those are all the rolling styles supported in Log4Net. I think with all these rolling styles, all your requirement may be getting served. That is all about the Log4Net logging into the file and console and debug appenders. So there are 3 different appenders, and so these are the 3 appenders we can use like this in our Web API.NET version 7. I would like to explain you one tip. So whenever you are working with this Log4Net, and if you have deleted this Log4Net file, and whenever you are creating it again, and if it is not working, there is a reason for that. Whenever you are recreating that file, if it is not working, then try to open the bin folder. Inside the bin folder, you can notice there is a Log4Net configuration file added. Sometimes whenever you are changing here, whenever you are changing the content here, it will not copy to the output folder of your project or debug folder of your project. The reason for that is right click on your Log4Net config file, go to properties. There is a configuration in the properties. There is a configuration that is a copy to output directory if it is a newer. Sometimes it will not copy, so it is better you select copy always. Whether it is a new one or old one or anything, it will copy always to the output directory. So this way you can resolve those issues. It will be a good tip for you if you are facing this kind of issue. I have faced this issue. I have identified this after 1 day. So this particular setting wasted my 1 day. That's all about Log4Net logging to the file and console and debug.